So about 6 months ago, I shut a very good business down. I was making between 160 to 170,000 recurring revenue a month. I had a VA, a handful of contractors sitting at above 90% profit. And I was running this business about 10 to 15 hours a week. But I stepped into 2025 with a strong sense that I was supposed to end this chapter I was in. But when I reached out to friends and different mentors asking for advice, some people were like, yeah, you should do this. But most people were like, dude, this is terrible. And the advice and feedback range from like, not a good idea to this is the worst idea I've ever heard. You definitely shouldn't do it. But I listened to my intuition regardless. And I went into August of last year and entered 12 weeks of sabbatical. Went from making a ton of money to making no money, went from having a busy phone, notifications, clients, all that kind of stuff popping off to nothing. I hopped off social media. I basically turned my phone off. I ran my life from an Apple Watch and I just listened and I waited as years of fast-paced lifestyle and a high-strung nervous system kind of caught up with me. Transparently, it was an incredibly hard season. I literally had a few moments where I thought I was going to have a heart attack. It was the craziest thing. I was like lying there, listening to music, doing nothing, and my heartbeat just started racing so incredibly fast that I was like almost about to call the emergency services. I had them on speed dial. But what was happening was the unraveling of so many different patterns, this identity that I had had for so long that had served me up until this point. But it was clear that I was being invited into a new way of being, into a new way of life. When I think back to every season of business, when I've had amazing growth, fast growth, what I would call effortless scale, it has been when I lent into the season I was in, the energy I was in. If you think about it like this, we are all energetic beings. Our energy fluctuates. It goes higher and lower. Now, women, they're much more tied to the lunar cycles, right? You'll see their hormones change throughout a month. So even the idea of like a woman grinding it out 9 to 5, Monday through Friday is a crazy idea because their hormones, their energy don't really support that. Then we've got men who are more solar. Now, our energy levels are typically more consistent, daily and weekly rhythms that kind of align with the sun. But all of us have energy that changes. And so if our body and our energy fluctuates, so should the seasons of business. And when I think back to, and when I am kind of even reflecting on the last 6 months, right? Had a sabbatical season, I did nothing. And then I started to slowly open myself up to the possibility of working. I did a couple of little projects and I'm coming into this year, still doing a few little projects, seeing what's alive. There has been this beautiful ease with which I don't feel like I'm wrestling against my nervous system or my body, but I'm cooperating with the season that I'm in. And when I think back to the hardest times in business, even if I was making a bunch of money, it was when I was ignoring the signs and the signals my body, my nervous system were clearly trying to send me that, hey, dude, you're trying to push right now, but actually what we're inviting you into is a slower pace. And so there have been times I listened to that voice and times that I didn't. But as I think back to the biggest lessons over the last 6, 7, 8 months of shutting this thing down, going quiet, it has been this idea that your energy has natural cycles, rhythms, and seasons, and your business should too. And the simple reminder that I keep coming back to when I think about really pragmatically, okay, we think about offers, we think about funnels, we think about scaling traffic, we think about delivering for clients, all of those things, I think about it in the context of what energy do I have available to me right now? When I'm really tapped in, sometimes that answer, by the way, doesn't come really fast where it's like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do today. Sometimes it's like you're in the void, you're in the dark night of the soul, you're kind of wandering around, you have our next step, you don't know where that step might lead you. And so you're kind of grasping, what am I trying to say here? You're trying to like find your way through the forest in the night. There is a sense that when you do that, everything becomes easier than if you ignore it, because there is this crazy common advice we find ourselves hearing a lot in the entrepreneurial space, which is that your feelings don't matter. And so you should ignore them and simply stick to your goals and stick to your plan. But when I observe the people who embody that message the most, they might make money, but they are miserable. And as I've reflected on my own journey, the alignment comes from listening. It's been so weird taking this huge break, not only from business, but from being public, from creating things, from being available to clients and answering questions, all that sort of stuff. It has been so deeply uncomfortable, but this season has been so necessary for me. And then when I feel into what I think is coming alive for me right now, what is really starting to come up, it feels exciting, it feels aligned, something that I feel ready for this week or this month was something that even a month ago, 2 months ago, was not ready and available to me. Asking yourself, what do I need right now? What's alive to me? What do I feel like I have the capacity for? What would feel aligned or that feel like there is an ease for me to do right now? When you do that, it will absolutely cause people to not understand your decisions, to judge, to speculate. You might be in the middle of a growth season. All of a sudden you slow down and everyone's like, dude, this is the time to put the foot on the gas. But the confidence and the respect you gain with yourself when you listen to your intuition, when you tap into the energy of the season, is something that no amount of money can buy. And there's this quote that has been bouncing around my mind that I saw on Pinterest of all places a few months ago, which is that I'm more interested in what my life feels like to me than how it looks to others. Said a different way for the entrepreneurial world is like, I'm more interested in how my business feels to me than how it looks to others. And my invitation as someone who is in the midst of a season is to challenge yourself to ask what season you're in and to not be too scared of the answer. The answer might be counter to what you're hoping to do right now. The goals, the model you want to embrace, you're ready to move, but your nervous system is saying, hey, let's just take this a bit slower. But as you do that, I promise, there is such a level of life and freedom and flow that comes on the other side of that. When you lean into the energy that's available to you, you will absolutely make more progress over the long term, right? Outwardly, my conviction is that this is the most profitable way to do business. But not only that, you will find a way of growing that feels like it is in step with your higher self, with the energy that's available to you. The feeling of friction so many of us feel, where entrepreneurship feels like, the gender neutral equivalent of being kicked in the nuts, that kind of dissipates because so much of that comes from push energy. But when you allow yourself to be pulled into whatever the season is requiring of you right now, there is an ease and an effortlessness that is available to you. So this is a note to myself. Wanted to share it with you. Sending you a ton of love. Talk soon.